Let me tell you about a city named Grazzle, where the culture there had a rough edge to it, to say the least. It was rough in a lot of facets, but for our interests, we'll focus on the verbal. Somehow, the Grazelian culture had evolved, so to speak, to where ones considered the strongest were the ones who could say that they were the strongest. This manifested itself into many different displays and expressions, but for example, if one person violated the personal space of another person, say accidentally allowed the fabric of one's clothes to brush the fabric of another's, the violated might fly into a rage and tell the other offender how much meaner they were than the violator with that unhinged meanness. Like,
"Oh, no, you didn't. Invade my space like some kind of pot-bellied bumbleslug. If you do that again, I'm going to shred up all your epidermises into ribbons and use them to tie up my little daughter's beautiful hair. She'll skip up and down your street where your parents live, dripping your blood all over the sidewalk right before she impales them with a pitchfork made of your own ribs."
if two people were arguing about some passionate issue in Grazel, inevitably one would seem to lose sight of winning the argument unless one considers the threat of physical violence a winning move in the realm of ideas, resorting to insulting the other party's right to existence, like,
"Your opinion is so wrong on this issue. It indicates that your DNA is something that invites infectious pus on itself and should be thrown into humanity's genetic dumpster. Also, your mother's so fat, she hasn't had any filling in her butt in years, and so has had a piece of turd stuck to her cheek for who knows how long. Finally, she found it during her once-in-a-decade shower and threw it away. Thing is, the turd cried for the trash can. Well, come to find out that turd was the baby, and that baby's name was you."
Yeah, the citizens were pretty obnoxious. And if anyone from other countries would point this out publicly, the social commentators would hide behind the defense that this was their culture, as much as any other culture's practices of celebrating certain days, eating certain foods, and wearing certain mustaches. Anyway, there was a mother and daughter who liked to walk around with their chests puffed out and more or less looked for opportunities to yell at others about how strong they were. And they were pretty legendary, making some of the most hardcore verbal warriors cry like limbless babies at the side of a drippy faucet. One time the two, Wonk the Wink and Wink with a battery acid breath was their names, battled Trunkle Booth, a meaty, once handsome man who took a telephone pole to the face during a tornado. The girls won the scuffle when the daughter, Wink, stated,
"I'll stretch my parts over my head. They're so durable, and when I let go, they'll snap back in place. But what you should be concerned about, Trunklepoof, on their way back, they'll slap your slug, sticky face off its skull and onto the butt of a far-sided hippopotamus, which will be so horrified at how ugly its backside has become, it will hang its butt off the back of a pickup truck until your flabby face is ground off."
Trunkle Booth was so convinced of this truth, he ran home to his own daughter wailing and asking why she'd never told him he was so ugly. So the duo danced around where the battle had occurred, as proud as light-footed dictators, and the people who witnessed the throwdown all complimented them out of fear for their own ugly faces. Wonk and Wink's glow went on until they spied a youngest girl standing staring into space. She didn't seem impressed, and this offended the duo. But before they went to mentally knock this girl down 1,000 notches, they noticed something special about the girl. She was wearing headphones.
"Oh, she's some kind of DJ."
Wink said with her battery breath while rolling her eyes.
"I bet she could rock a party from dusk till dawn."
Wonk the Wink observed in deep contemplation.
"So that's why she's not so impressed with our mad skills."
"Let's learn to DJ and then inform her how much better we were at it."
The mother shrugged.
"Nah, that's too much work. Let's wing it and go ahead and assume we're awesome at DJing. Let the sweetmeat know and she'll be so devastated she'll go straight home, break all her records, and puncture her eardrums with one of those broken vinyl shards."
"Ha ha, good plan, Mom."
So they strode up to the girl and began throwing down.
"Hey, DJ Sausage Fingers,"
Called out Wink with her battery acid fervor.
"whatever DJ you think you aspire to be, we just got done battling him or her."
"Yeah.
Chimed in Wonk the Wink.
First we got the record spinning, which were lined with cocaine, ground up glass, and the ashes of all the lovers of the DJs we've defeated in the past."
"We snorted those discs dry."
The girls wiggled their noses and made weird sniffing sounds that didn't sound too much unlike a wind blowing through a cave. The daughter continued,
"Then Mom Mama dropped a needle on a bass line that was so evil it was considered a war crime.
which was followed by the mother.
I stuck my triumphant fist up and my daughter bumped it. Fired up a record with some break beats that had its way with more boys than I have.
Yeah, then Mom flipped on the nuclear reactor-powered direct drive, which made the vinyl melt into dark matter. But she still scratched the grooves that flung in the air with her dark energy manipulation skills.
Then my daughter tore off all the mixer knobs, ate them, and proceeded to still adjust the levels with her intestines. The EQ was so off the chain, it caused all the mothers in the audience to suck their young and old, back into their stinking insides. Some exploded, which made the floor slippery, helping some of the cloggers and breakers really cut a rug.
Finally, we flung the dopest track in the universe, a funky house number that sampled the hand claps of Isaac Newton's dug-up corpse at your favorite DJ, which removed his or her head from their body. The head flipped through the air and landed on the end of a pole, which we set on fire later so we could find our car out in the poorly lit parking lot.
Wonk and Wink jumped up in the air, gave each other high fives, and landed on bended knees, throwing punches at some unheard kick drum.
Take that, DJ!
It was then that the girl with the headphones finally looked in their direction, and after pressing a button on one of the earpieces, she spoke.
Oh, I apologize. I didn't hear y'all. What?
The girls responded, both offended and worried that they wouldn't be able to remember the supreme toxic raps they'd spit at the girl already.
Yeah, I'm sorry, because y'all, well, everyone is stronger than me in Grazzle, and I'm weak, and everyone kept telling me so, and I couldn't stop getting my feelings hurt, nor could I stop crying, no matter how much I tried. And I kept thinking the worst of people, began to hate everyone, and wish terrible things would befall them. So to save my soul from getting hung in those strangleweeds, I put on these headphones with love mixes I made, and now I'm a little more optimistic and don't feel as much ill will towards the world. Will y'all forgive me?
The mother and daughter couldn't figure out this girl's angle and suspected it might have been the legendary killing them with brain cancer kindness spell that the great lyricist used eons ago to cause grim devastation on those it was used against. All to say, the girls ran like flaming firemen from a burning building, though they would later claim it was just to get some distance before they got megaphones and unleashed words that were known to even melt the minds of those who set them. The headphoned girl frowned at losing what might have been her first friends in Grazzle. She walked away, slump-shouldered. Well, eventually, the mother-daughter Terrible Two met their match during a later verbal throwdown against a panda-headed snake that claimed hell resided in a stinky, hot-breathed mouth. Both females doused their panties in fright and soaked their blouses in tears, so much so that they became so dehydrated their skin flaked away, leaving only their insides. Even though Wonk and Wink were deader than crunchy leaves, the whole country still sunk even further into heart attacks, strokes, violence, and untimely death and disintegrations. People were somewhat oblivious to their own part in their destructions, generally, but there were a few that noticed how Feinessa, the girl with the headphones, had responded to the verbal abuse of the horrible mother and daughter. And on occasional brave moments, they would try the same thing. Sometimes it worked just as well, but not always. Still, pockets of Grazzle began to become transformed, albeit slowly. Most interestingly, Feinessa, who had been mistaken as a DJ, began to get requests to perform the said function at poolside parties, art shows, funerals, and so on. She never rocked a party before, but she wasn't blind and reached for the rope thrown to her. That journey is the subject of another story, but I can tell you, eventually, as the ashes of her burning countrymen blew into her mouth, she would rinse it out with lime-splashed ice water and resume bouncing her head along to the happy sounds pumped from her speakers at so many gigs.